Good morning. Tuesday. Off to work. Time for the recap. First thing, didn't get nearly as far as I thought we would last night. At all. But we did have a lot of fun. It was a very humorous session. I don't know what was with the mood everyone was in, but we all laughed all the way through it, which is a great session of D&D sometimes, especially if things have been a bit tense for a while. So, I'd say I would break the game into 4 main sections. Obviously, we began the game on the steps of the Temple of the Hill Giants, with the group debating what to do about the Frost Giant in Malhavik. Captain Teowin decided that she was going to go with Gulrin to meet with this Hill Giant, who she knew was in a tavern on Havik, which is the largest world of Malhavik. It's also where their ship was docked. So, they plane shifted back to their ship and walked from their ship into town, stopped to meet the dockmaster to ask him if he knew of any taverns large enough to accommodate a giant. As Tianwen was asking this question, Gulrin threw a bag of gold at him. He looked at the bag of gold and pointed out the window, and he says, yeah, go about a block down. It's called Tavern Street. Now, had they walked 50 feet past the docks, there was a giant signpost where one of the signs would clearly have pointed them towards Tavern Street. Because, like most port towns, there's one near the docks. They got there, they found that there were 5 establishments large enough to cater to giants. Went into the first one, had a look around, saw a fire giant, that's not him. Went into the second one, looked around, saw about 4 giants. 2 of them were even frost giants, but they weren't him. Went back outside again then. Finally decided, okay, well, maybe I need more specific directions. Used ascending. Found out that Godric was in a tavern called the Dead Wolf that was in a different city, or a different town, about halfway across the world. So, you know, amazing that the first place you show up on a planet isn't the exact city you're looking for, I know, but, you know, it was quite a large world. It actually had 4 cities that Spelljammers could dock at, so... Following that, they went back to the dockmaster to ask him if he could tell them where that city was located, how far away it was. Gulrin threw another bag of gold at him. He happily pointed to the map that was on public display on the wall behind them in his office. Now 200 gold richer. And also cheerfully explained to them that he'd happily booked them passage on the ship that was leaving in the morning. So they paid him another 20 gold to book passage on the ship, then left decided to speak with the Mages Guild, thinking they might have a teleportation circle. Spent a little while trying to figure out if they could teleport to the circle in the Mage's Tower. Then realized they didn't have the sigils for it. Then spent a little time wondering if they could sneak in to get the sigils to teleport to the circle. Why they would want to teleport to the circle if they were actually there, I'm not quite sure. But it was entertaining. They then realized that they didn't have any teleportations prepared, but Gulrin did have 2 more plane shifts. So they plane shifted from Malhavik to Night. Got to Night, heard a news crier basically shouting about invasions from all sides. Bought a newspaper from him. Never read it. Bought it though. And then plane shifted back to Malhavik, targeting the correct town. They then went into the bar, found the Frost Giant absolutely pity party, roaring drunk. Had a bit of a conversation with him where Gulrin offered to cure his drunkenness, at which point he told them that he had worked very hard to get this drunk, and that if he sobered up, he was afraid that his friend would still be gone, realizing they meant the dragon that they had killed, or Vorian killed. They didn't kill, Vorian killed. And then they just decided to leave him blubbering in the tavern, and they plane shifted back to Osterna. Now, while all of this was going on, Valiad decided to do some experimenting. He decided to find an animal that was frozen in the ice and magically make it immune to cold damage. He quickly discovered that making the creature immune to cold damage stopped its frozen state, but it didn't take it out of the ice. So he watched then as the creature suffocated in this, form-fitting ice block prison. Probably not the nicest way to go. After that, he then decided that he was going to do it again to another creature. But this time, instead of leaving it to suffocate, he was then going to stab it in the face. Stab the ice where its face was, to try to punch an air hole. When he struck the block of magical ice with his frost trident, it did pierce the ice. It then exploded outwards in a frost blast, which turned the creature inside the ice into jelly. And then the magical ice crept up the trident, locking it in place. So he killed the second creature and lost his trident that time. We then cut to Mr. X, who decided to use Commune with Other Plane in a very unusual manner. Commune other plane is normally used to communicate with deities or extraplanar creatures of power or long dead, sages. He decided to use it to contact the Master of Way, who is a living monk in another sphere who trained him. He was quite surprised that most of the answers that he got to his kind of far-reaching questions were maybe or I don't know. The Master of Way doesn't get out much. He's not really a well-traveled man. So when you ask him, about devil hordes that are halfway across the galaxy, it's not really something he's going to be that attentive over. He's watching specifically for one type of threat. And if he sees that, then he'll say something about it. But yeah, he wasn't very much help. Following that, Yoki and Mr. X decided to explore the temple. They went into the temple and eventually found a room with basically a giant's feasting hall. Enough food for dozens of giants and titans. And the odd thing was that the food was not frozen, but it was preserved. They figured out this must be magical, this must be the trial. The two of them decided to undertake the trial and started eating and eating and eating until they both ended up completely and totally sickened, bloated, all that kind of stuff, and crawled out of the chamber wishing for death. That was basically how they ended the trial. Eventually, Tiawan and Gulrin came back. Vorian reappeared. He had been actually following them the entire time. Yoki and Valiad had a bit of a thing where Yoki noticed that his trident was gone, asked a lot of questions. Valiad didn't want to give the answers. Yoki went looking around, found the trident. They did manage to get it back off of the icy creature, but the trident is still encased in this ice. And then Valiad and Vorian went into the feasting chamber and decided to undertake the trial. The two of them much more prepared, Vorian being used to a lifetime of the feasts of the gods, and Valiad being a genie who is just, physically built very differently. The two of them actually managed to complete the trial, and the rest of the group watched as they transformed before their eyes into hill giants. And basically they've now gained the ability to, at will, polymorph from their normal form into a hill giant or back. And that's where we left the session. So, yeah, it didn't work out as I had planned. Didn't exactly get as far as I had thought we would, but it was a really nice game session. It was a good night. Anyway, I'll be back tomorrow with more. I I think tomorrow I'll be talking about the new game that I'm setting up for. Like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. I will be posting some more later on today, some actual game footage, assuming it turned out okay. I haven't actually watched it back yet. Have a great day.